الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونتوب إليه ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد الحمد لله والشكر لله. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God Almighty. We ask Him Jalla Thana'uhu to send blessings, salutations, peace and mercy upon the best of creation, our Master Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and his family, companions, folk and followers in excellence until the end of time. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Allah Ta'ala has gathered us together on another day of Jum'ah to make remembrance of Him, to connect with one another, to connect with our Lord, to connect with one another, the bonds of brotherhood and sisterhood that are essential to our well-being individually and as communities. And that now is a time that many people in our communities are experiencing various types of trauma. Ours is an age of trauma and difficulty in processing trauma. And there are many reasons for this, and many of them have to do with the nature of modernity, the effects of modernity, what modernity has imposed upon all of us in terms of the way we exist, the way we are isolated, the atomization of the human being, the breaking up of communities, families. Even families can be physically together, but in terms of mental states completely alienated from one another because of the cell phones and the laptops and all of the different apparati which were promised, whether explicitly or implicitly, to lead to progress. Yet many people experience a true regress. And not to say that we're against technology, but that perhaps we should start to look a little deeper as to what exactly is going on with the effects of many of our toys and gadgets. But in any case, in the realm of philosophy, this issue of trauma and processing trauma, particularly vis-a-vis belief, faith, religion, is called the problem of suffering, the problem of evil and suffering. And this is a problem that has plagued many communities, particularly in Western civilization. And classically, if you look at our traditional Islamic heritage, our scholastic heritage, our spiritual heritage, this issue did not pose a philosophical issue for our scholars and for our shuyukh of our tradition. And in general, Muslim communities were able to deal with trauma in a profound way. And the Ummah has experienced all sorts of trauma, but you find this resilience, you find this ability to process, whether in the mind, in the heart, and dealing with different trauma. And this comes from the barakah of the Kitab and Sunnah. The barakah of the Qur'an. Anyone with a working relationship with the Qur'an, anyone with a working relationship with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, through the Seerah, the blessed life, his blessed life sallallahu alaihi wasallam, through the Sunnah, his blessed way and practice, through the shuyukh and the ulama and the awliya and the exemplars of our communities throughout the ages, will have mechanisms, even though they don't realize it, of dealing with trauma that most people who are not connected as such lack. These are profound gifts from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and so we have so much without realizing it. But again, in our times, even many Muslims who might be reading the Qur'an, who might be reading much of the religion, practicing to the best of their ability, have difficulty processing trauma. Because again, ours is a new age. And so we have to go back to some of the key lessons in understanding pain and suffering. And it begins with our aqidah, as does everything else in our religion. It begins with our theology. It begins with our beliefs. Because we believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We believe that Allah ta'ala is omnipotent. We believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is omniscient. We believe that Allah ta'ala has eternal will. That He, Jalla Thana'uhu, in His eternality, in His qidam, before there was any time, before there was any space, before the before, if you will, and we're limited by human language to say the word before, that He knew everything, all possibilities, and certainly every detail of what He would create, Jalla Thana'uhu. And He, in fact, willed everything. That the Mashi'a of Allah Ta'ala, this is the belief of the qada and the qadr. It's one of the pillars of Iman. The Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in many hadith, that we believe in the qada and the qadr, khayrihi wa sharrihi, hulwihi wa murrihi. It's good and it's evil. It's not a problem for us. Evil is not a problem. It's sweet and it's bitter. So there is suffering. It's not a philosophical problem. The Prophet emphasizes, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in one hadith, grabbing his blessed beard, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, hadith musalsal, biqabd al-lihya, amantu bil-qadri, khayrihi wa sharrihi, hulwihi wa murrihi. I have full conviction in the divine decree. The eternal decisions of Allah Ta'ala that unfold in the world through His creative act, through His khalq, His ijad, His creating of whatever He willed, both the good and the evil, both the sweet and the bitter, the trauma, the suffering. All of this is willed by Allah. And in His omnipotent power, He creates. خَالِقُ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قُلِ اللَّهُ خَالِقُ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ وَهُوَ الْوَاحِدُ الْقَهَّارِ. In the Qur'an, say, Allah is the creator of every single thing. Whether good, whether bad. Whether of obedience, whether of disobedience. يَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ وَيُضِلُّ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. He guides whomever He wills. He misguides whomever He wills. قُلِ اللَّهُ خَالِقُ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ وَهُوَ الْوَاحِدُ الْقَهَّارِ. And He is the one. Because this is the confusion that comes with the issue of will. Allah is one in all of His attributes, including His will. And so any other choices that are made in the world, any choices that are made in creation are contingent and relative compared to the divine absolute choice. The divine choice is absolute. The choices of what we call free will are contingent and relative. And again, this is explicitly mentioned in the Qur'an. وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. And you cannot make a decision, and you do not make a decision unless Allah had willed it. جَلَّ ثَنَاؤُهُ. مَا شَاءَ اللَّهُ كَانَ وَمَا لَمْ يَشَأْ لَمْ يَكُنْ. The Salaf, the early Muslims used to say, whatever Allah wills, happens. And whatever He doesn't will, doesn't happen. جَلَّ ثَنَاؤُهُ. And we know, مَا شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. مَا شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. The man in Surah Al-Kahf said to the man whose gardens perished, there you have suffering in the world, that's a traumatic experience. He was a person of disbelief, the problem of evil, suffering combined. And he said, had you only said, مَا شَاءَ اللَّهُ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. Whatever Allah wills, i.e. happens. وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. And there's no power that exists in an absolute sense, contingent, relative. Human beings, our choices translate into our actions, but it's not real power. وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. There's no true power, there's no real power, there's no power to actually give existence to something, ijad wal khalq, illa billah, except with Allah Ta'ala. And this is something from the Sunnah that the Prophet in the hadith said that if this is said on any blessing, then it'll be safeguarded until its final ajal, its determined end point. According to Kama qala sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Ma sha Allah la quwwata illa billah. This is our aqidah. These are our central beliefs. And the qada and the qadr is from the central beliefs. And so, we know in the Isra wal Miraj, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, one of the things according to the hadith, the Prophet Ibrahim, he said, teach your community to make much dhikr of La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Wa fi riwaya, wa fi hadith al-Tabarani, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, ghirasul jannah. That this dhikr, this remembrance of Allah, this formula And the point is not simply the words, but the ma'ani, the meanings emanating from the heart, concretized and realized in the heart, such that it is the basis of a vision of the heart, such that the heart sees the world through these ma'ani, these meanings. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. There is no power, there is no ability to change one thing into another except with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in the hadith, ghirasul jannah, it is the grass. Ghiras, it is the grass, the vegetation, the greenery of paradise itself, Jannah. Subhanallah. And so, and it's not simply a matter of processing these beliefs in the intellect and accepting them in the heart. That's the first step. But making these meanings realities of our hearts. That the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which the dhikr of Allah reflects all of these beliefs, that it goes from the tongue into the heart, little by little, as we have our daily and weekly and monthly, insha'Allah, routines with the book of Allah, with the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, until we start, the eye of the heart is opened, the basira. Just like we have basar, we have basira. And the basira is a sensitive faculty. It's a sensitive faculty. So if we allow negativity in the heart, then it can get disrupted very easily, which is why it's so important to stay away from all things that are illicit, that are displeasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And again, particularly in our times, when so much is available literally at our fingertips, and people's lives are destroyed by the pernicious and harmful, foul things on the internet, that we have to remind ourselves and our young people especially of preserving these inner faculties. It's not simply the faculties of the physical body, but the faculties of the heart, the spiritual heart. Imam Abu Hassan al-Shadili rahimahullah, he said that al-basiratu kal-basar, the heart of the eye of the heart is the sight of the heart, the sight of the heart is like the sight of the eye. Adna shay yaqa'u fiha yu'attil an-nadhar, that the slightest negativity that enters it will mess up the vision. It's like you get a little speck in your eye, suddenly it's all gray, there's fluid, you have to really work at to make sure. The slightest thing can mess up, can yu'attil an-nadhar. وَإِن لَمْ يَنْتَهِ الْأَمْرِ إِلَى الْعَمَى, he said, rahimahullah, even if it doesn't lead to all-out blindness of the eye, God forbid, because that's what kufr is, the blindness of the sight of the heart. And so these ma'ani, and so then how do we then respond? The first response, if you will, to difficulty, to trauma, to suffering, is to return to our aqidah and to go back to these meanings. And this is what's called ultimately the highest level, one of the highest levels of this is ar-rida bil-qada. Ar-rida bil-qada, to be content with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. First, to realize that Allah ta'ala is in charge, always, in His sublime omnipotence, in His sublime majesty, in His sublime authority, Jalla thana'uhu, lillahi al-amru min qablu wa min ba'd. Allah Ta'ala says, lillahi al-amru min qablu wa min ba'd. Allah owns the affair, i.e. every affair, beforehand and afterwards. Allah owns it before and Allah owns it afterwards, i.e. by implication, Allah owns the current moment. And He says it explicitly in Surah Ar-Rahman, kulla yawmin huwa fi sha'n. In every moment, it is He, and He alone, that is really engaged in the affair. It is Allah, even if people are the means of wrongdoing, and people who commit wrongdoing will be taken to justice. Al-dhulm dhulumat yawm al-qiyamah, the Prophet said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, we're responsible for our free will, our contingent ability to choose, we're responsible for that. A tyranny and oppression will be layers and layers and layers of darkness on the Day of Judgment. Al-dhulm dhulumat yawm al-qiyamah. No one's getting away with anything. No one's getting away with anything. And our Prophet ﷺ, he would return to the Mashi'ah of Allah Ta'ala when people would wrong him. When we read the Meccan period of the Seerah and we see persecution after persecution, difficulty after difficulty, look at the prophetic response. One example of this, Ibn Sa'ad relates in his Tabaqat, one of the most important works of the Seerah, of the life of the Prophet ﷺ, that when the Prophet was going to the different qaba'il, the different tribes in the mawasim, in the Hajj time, when the pilgrims were coming, and he was going to them, making da'wah, calling them to the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, calling them to these beliefs, these foundational beliefs that all prophets taught their people, alayhi salam, the very key of salvation, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and also dealing with the persecution of himself, his blessed self, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, his blessed companions in Mecca, all of the trauma that was happening. And we read in Ibn Sa'd that when he would do this, Abu Lahab and others would be following him and saying that, telling the people, innahu sabit, innahu kadhab. Now this person left the religion of his forefathers. That's what they would say, sabit, someone that left the religion of the Arabs, of their forefathers, and he's just lying. A'udhu billah. We're just citing what these wrongdoers would say. And bad-mouthing the best of creation, how much it would hurt his feelings, because he was harisun alaykum. Nothing he loved more than the guidance in terms of worldly things than the guidance of other people. He was so concerned. So on one hand, he's concerned for the salvation of the people that he's calling. On the other hand, he's seeking political help because of the persecution in Mecca. And Ibn Sa'd relates that the Prophet stopped after all this bad-mouthing and you know how much his blessed feelings were hurt from Abu Lahab and others saying these things, and he said in the dua, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Allahumma law shi'ta lam yakunu hakadha. Allahumma law shi'ta lam yakunu hakadha. And this applies to all wrongdoers. And this is the sunnah of responding. The first way, the first response to trauma is returning to the mashi'ah of Allah, the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, oh Allah, had you not willed, these people would not have been like this. Oh Allah, had you not willed, these wrongdoers, and who's worse than someone that shows animosity to the best of creation, sallallahu alayhi wasallam? Who's worse than Abu Lahab and Abu Jahl, Fir'aun, Hadi al-Ummah? Who's worse than these people ever? Allahumma law shi'ta, oh Allah, had you willed, lam yakunu hakadha. These people would not have been like this. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. And so it's not just talk. It's not a bypassing, spiritual bypassing. Returning to our aqidah is the foundation. And it doesn't mean we don't take the means, because what was the Prophet doing the whole time, sallallahu alayhi wasallam? Going out, inviting, spending his time, spending his energy, exerting all of his blessed energy, his blessed effort to do it, taking whatever means were at his disposal, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And so the adab with Allah Ta'ala, as we learn from the sunnah, is tawakkul is in the heart, applying these meanings is in the heart, but the limbs take action. But sometimes people get it inverted, where all the action and reaction and the emotion and it's inside, but the limbs don't do anything. People sitting around having tea and coffee, people chatting on the internet, people just not doing much in terms of action, of effort, but the heart is going up and down in a roller coaster. It's the exact opposite of the sunnah. No, the sunnah is to put our effort with whatever means Allah Ta'ala allows us to use, while having that stillness, sakina, which comes through our aqidah and through the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ar-Rida, Ibn Ata, one of the companions of Imam Junaid, he says, Ar-Rida, nadhrul qalb ila qadim ikhtiyarillahi lil-abd. He said that contentment with Allah, satisfaction with Allah, is for the heart to gaze. Vision of the heart. Nadhrul qalb. The heart has a vision. The basira is for the heart to look, to gaze upon the eternal, pre-existent, pre-eternal decision of Allah for the servant. To recognize that all of it was already decided. Every single thing was decided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And yet, we are responsible for how we use our free will and what actions we take. And those that do wrong will be taken into account undoubtedly. But we return to Allah first. We don't turn our hearts to creation. We first turn our hearts to Allah, and then we deal with creation with our efforts. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفر الله إن الله غفور رحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. One of the great scholars of our tradition, Abu Uthman al-Hiyari, rahimahullah ta'ala. Abu Uthman al-Hiyari died in the year 298 after Hijrah, and he moved to Nisapur to study with the Shaykh there that he wanted to study with. He was a great alim, he was a great teacher of the outward and the inward. Imam Dhahabi in his Seerah Alam al-Nubala, he says that he calls him Shaykh al-Islam, Abu Uthman al-Hiyari, and he calls him al-Ustad, and he says he was a muhaddith and a qudwa, and he said that he was for the people of Khurasan like Imam Junaid was for the people of Iraq, Abu Uthman al-Hiyari. And he relates, Imam Dhahabi relates that Hakim, the great muhaddith who wrote the Mustadrak, this important book of hadith, Hakim, who was alive at the same time in the same region, he said, لم يختلف مشايخنا أن Shaykh Abu Uthman كان مجاب الدعوة. He said, our teachers did not have any disagreement that Abu Uthman al-Hiyari was someone whose dua was mustajab with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of his blessed teachings that he took from the prophetic niche, from his sanad back to the Prophet ﷺ, not his hadith, but in terms of the learning of the sunnah that he had, rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, At-tafweed raddu ma jahilta ila alimihi. He said, consigning the affair back to Allah is to hand over to Allah what we don't understand. Raddu ma jahilta ila alimihi. To give back to Allah what we don't understand. And he said, وَالتَّفْوِيدْ مُقَدِّمَةُ الرِّضَى. And he said, this consigning of things back to Allah. Oh Allah, I don't understand what's happening. I don't understand the trauma in my life. I don't understand why. I don't understand the trauma in the ummah right now. I don't understand why there's so much pain and suffering right now. Handing it back to Allah. And this is from the Qur'an. وَأُفَوِّدُ أَمْرِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. And I consign my affair back to Allah. وَاللَّهُ بَصِيرٌ بِالْعِبَادِ. That he said, وَالتَّفْوِيدْ مُقَدِّمَةُ الرِّضَى. And he said that this consigning is the precursor to this great state of rida, which the Prophet was the master of, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Contentment with the divine decree. Muqaddimah. So we have to start there, and inshallah over time we can arrive at this level of contentment with Allah's decree. And he said, he concluded, وَالرِّضَى بَابُ اللَّهِ الْأَعْظَمِ. He said, being content and satisfied with the decree of Allah is the greatest door to Allah. It's the greatest door to being beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And our Prophet taught us this in the context of suffering when he said in the hadith, as Imam Tirmidhi relates, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, inna idham al-jaza bi idham al-bala. That the greatness of your reward is commensurate to the greatness of the suffering. Commensurate to the greatness of the pain and suffering. وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ تَعَالَى إِذَا أَحَبَّ قَوْمٍ ابْتَلَاهُمْ. And verily Allah, when He loves a people, He tests them. And who is more tested than the most beloved to Allah? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Habibullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the most tested of people. And he said sallallahu alaihi wasallam, فَمَنْ رَضِيَ. Again, this is the first response. فَمَنْ رَضِيَ فَلَهُ الرِّضَى. So whoever is satisfied with Allah, after tafweed and tafweed and tafweed, then it results in this, then Allah will be well pleased with them. The rida of Allah. And that's the point of life. That's one of the secrets of all suffering. Because the point of life is that Allah is pleased with the servant. وَمَنْ سَخِطَ فَلَهُ السَّخَطِ. But whoever is displeased and upset with Allah, then Allah will be upset with them. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. الرِّضَى بِالْقَضَاءِ وَالْقَدَرِ. And we'll conclude with the dua of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and an entire series of lessons and khutbah could be on this dua in the year of suffering after Ta'if. Because this is one of the most important chapters of the Seerah for us to process and understand suffering in our times. If we're confused, return to the Seerah, return to the Kitab and Sunnah, and the Seerah has all the answers. The Book of Allah, the Sunnah, the Seerah has all the answers. And specifically, Amul Huzn. We know that this was, our mother Aisha asked the Prophet once, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what was the most difficult time for you? And he said, at the hands of your people, and he meant the Arab. Who was he referring to? Banu Thaqif of Ta'if. It's called the year of sadness. In the span of 2+ months, 2 months or so, the most difficult worldly circumstances for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The first thing that happened, Abu Talib died. And Abu Talib was his fatherly figure. He called him my son when they went to Buhayra. Buhayra asked, is he your son? Abu Talib said yes. They were so close. The uncle like a father. And he raised him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he was also his political protection. His political protection in Mecca was through Abu Talib. Abu Talib died. This was very heavy. Allah Ta'ala revealed that the Prophet loved Abu Talib. إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ. You don't guide who you love. So he loved Abu Talib sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Pain for the blessed heart of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then the death of Khadija, our mother, radiallahu anha. How much did the Prophet love Khadija sallallahu alaihi wasallam, radiallahu anha? He said in Sahih Muslim, "Inni ruziqtu hubbaha." Allah gave me as rizq, love for her. Allah Ta'ala gave me as rizq, it's my rizq that I love her. He would hear the voice of Khadija's sister and get overwhelmed because it would remind him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, years later of our mother Khadija. And then he goes to Ta'if to seek political protection. And we know the story, the Banu Thaqif were horrible to him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And for 1 month he's making da'wah. Finally they have the children and the slaves throw stones at him. Zayd ibn Haritha as a physical shield trying to block him. Still, despite that, as they're leaving, the Prophet ﷺ bleeding. And he sits down. And what is his dua? He turns to Allah. That's the most important answer to the problem of evil and suffering. It's turning back to Allah. Just like in the Fatiha, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين وأقيموا الصلاة.